What this video needs is more aetherband. Aetherband is a term I smithed to account for the manifold miraging effects observed over distance, whether terrestrial or aquatic. Aether simply refers to the air and all its constituent elements which compose its nature. Band refers to that area of 3D space which contains the observation being made. This band can be as broad as the entire field of view or a smaller, isolated section. The aetherband is the cause of every minute and alternating effect under the broad category of mirage. That is, fata morgana, inferior mirage, or superior mirage, or any other optical or atmospheric distortion or refraction or whatever the hell happens out there.
Is an inferior mirage of the sailboat. Okay, so this is the same day that we're looking at in the video, and we're going to see an image of a sailboat. Okay, except we're not going to see the hull. We're not going to see the body of this sailboat. All we're going to see is the main mast with the rigging coming down into an inferior mirage because it changes in angle. So where'd the boat go? Well, in this instance, the refraction that's happening is raising the water up to a higher level, and it's also compressing the boat at that right above the horizon in the mirage. So again, all we have is simply well, I would say that this is a bit of a combination because you had more distance with the birds in the previous shot, but you still have the compression going on, as well as in this instance the looming up of the water that's in front of you. In this instance, the refraction is looming up, but it's looming up what's in front of you, not what's beyond the horizon. Okay, so where this water ends is the horizon, because that's where the narrative says the reason why you can't see the water farther than this. Why if I were to ask a baller, why can't you see water farther than the line that's here? Well, because it's curving away from you. Okay, so then that is the horizon. That is, so that if this landscape here was gone and there was just sky, then that's where you would see the water end. It's the same idea, except the problem is that this is we don't know where this geometric horizon is. Again, that goes back to the fact where we would have to do we would have to physically measure to confirm the geometric curve calculation, right? The other thing that I'll say here is that I know that this is not the curvature of the Earth because I have footage from the other side. I'm on the east side of the Chesapeake Bay here. On the west side, which would be on the other side of this sailboat, on the west side here is I have footage shooting back across to the east side with a line of sight to the shore with a motorboat zooming across, and it's not disappeared. It's not hidden behind the curve like this sailboat is. Okay, so I know that the reason why I can't see this sailboat is because refraction is coming into play. Okay, I might have to find that. I might have to find that that footage just to show that. Okay, so what I've got here for you is the opposite view. I am on the other side of the Chesapeake Bay where I live in Havre de Grace, Maryland. So I am now where I normally set up. So what you were just looking at with that still that you're going to see later in the video that I'm playing about the footage that I caught with Derek and Adam and the flashes that we did. You were just looking at a still of a sailboat where the hull was completely disappeared. Where is it? Okay. It looks as though it's behind the curve. That is impossible. Impossible. Because you have to consider how far away that boat needs to be from the horizon in order to have that much disappeared, and we're only at 5.85 miles, okay? You do the fucking math. Sorry, excuse me. You do the smurfing math. I'm not going to do the math for you. I don't have to do the math. I don't have to do... what are your... where's your data? Where's your data? Okay, so... I'm on the side of the lighthouse right now. I'm going to be shooting back. This is from September. This is late in the afternoon where I normally don't have the time to do this because my shift starts at noon. So I've done a lot of my shooting mostly in the morning, and Catch has Catch Cam in the evening. But tonight had fantastic visibility straight down to the Smurfin shoreline of the other side. Okay, so if the boat that you were just looking at was over the curve, how the Smurf are we seeing these boats? Oh, it's looming. The refraction is looming everything up from over the curve and making it look like it's flat. Isn't looming just wonderful? It's just so helpful for us. No, okay, everyone, no. You're just looking straight ahead. Everything is always straight in front of you. The reason why it gets distorted is because of refraction. Always, ever, and is ever. Okay, so what I'm going to do is try to find some good clips for you guys, and because it's a 26-minute video, but anyway, here we go. Enjoy. All right, so what you're looking at right now is where I shoot from, in front of the pavilion to the left of the Airbnb red roofed house. Right in front of that pavilion is where I set up right on the shoreline, and we can see straight down to it. And as a matter of fact, if you look to the right of the pavilion, to your left of the pavilion, I believe you've got a boat right on the loading dock. So right on the ramp there. Anyway, this is, okay, if the sailboat was disappeared behind water, where's the water? Here, because we're going to see boats farther away that are smaller than the sailboat, and they are not behind any water. Okay, please pay attention. and this one is another nice shot. We've got more distance now. We've got less definition in terms of looking at. It's very, very smooth, and you can see these molting feathers on the water from the seabirds, and we've got. So as we move from the bottom of the image where the arrow starts, right to the very first horizontal line, that's where I'm putting the disclosing line. That's where the mirroring is going to begin. Now, in this instance, because we can see the feathers on the water, we're still seeing physical water. So I really don't have a problem saying that this bird is mirrored on physical water. Okay, in this instance, I don't have a problem with that. But when you look over to the very left on that same horizontal line, you've got a different image there where the condominiums up at the very top, they look like jaggedy teeth, kind of like that Death Cab for Cutie song. That is going to be in the air, not on the water. Okay, and the reason again why I say that is because this lighthouse, if you go to the vanishing line of the lighthouse and cut that in half, that's where the reflection begins. That's where the inferior mirage begins. So an inferior mirage isn't the same as a reflection. This bird is being reflected. The image of the bird upside down beneath its physical body, that's not an inferior mirage. Okay, a mirage is in the air. A reflection is on the surface of the water. So the reason why I have drawn the conclusion that this lighthouse as an inverted inferior mirage, if that's not redundant, is I know that the water isn't up to the base of the lighthouse. There's a cannon there, there's a walking path there are bushes. We can't see it. So it's not the water that's going all the way up to the lighthouse. That's an inferior mirage. So the tricky part is, and I don't really have a problem. If you want to argue with me about the image to the very left of the seagull that's on that second horizontal line, if you want to say, Travis, come on now, man, that water is reflecting those houses, I'd be like, okay, fine. But when you get up to the vanishing line for the lighthouse, no, it's not the water. So at some point there's that transition where if you're moving up a gradient from the surface of the water into the air, who knows when that transition happens. Who knows, okay? And let's go to this image. All right. This image is a still and a combination of my footage with an excerpt from Andrew Thomas Young's website where he talks about the transition zone. Okay, the transition zone. So let me read this real quick. The transition between the erect and inverted images. Okay, now the erect image is just simply the physical image. I say physical boat. I say physical land. He says erect image, or the erect image. Yeah. So he's going to call that barge that is drawn there above my picture. He's going to call he's calling the physical the erect image. That is, it's standing up straight or whatever. I don't know. Okay. The transition between the erect and inverted images in inferior mirages is continuous. That is, you cannot tell when the water disappears. You don't know where it disappears. There is no sharp demarcation between the two images. At the line where the image seems to fold over and invert, here is great vertical magnification of the image. Random landscape features appear stretched vertically, sometimes looking like the raised pile on a carpet. I guess you have to have carpets to understand what that means, but I think I understand. It's like a part of the carpet that gets walked on a lot and gets raised up so that it's not flush anymore. But okay, so my comment is in the red. So let's look at this image here. He's got these references. Lowercase a starts where the oar or the rudder goes from the barge down to the water, B. All right, and B is the point at which it mirrors on itself and inverts and goes back to C. So C is mirroring E. Okay. Now I can't remember what, I'll have to read this. I'll have to go back up. Okay. This is from William Hyde Wollaston, 1800. Right. This is a description. He drew this barge and described what he was seeing. I was sitting in a boat near Chelsea, in such a position that my eye was elevated about half a yard from the surface of the water. Now, that's not very high, so I don't know how he's in a boat elevated half a yard from the surface of the water. And I had a view over its surface that probably somewhat exceeded a mile in length. When I remarked that the oars of several barges at a distance that were then coming up with the tide appeared bent in various degrees, according to their distance from me. The most distant appeared nearly in the form here represented, DD being my visible horizon. Okay, so that's here. His visible horizon is where what I call the disclosing line. Okay, so that's DD. Okay, there's the other D. I see it. So D over here to the left of the water line, the watermark, the watermark. I put that in to demark the water. So there's a D there to the left, and then at the very at the stern of the boat in the reflection, there's another D. So that's DD. So that's his visible horizon, okay? DD being my visible horizon by apparent curvature of the water, okay? So I believe that comment, I didn't see that comment before. I didn't notice that before. He's saying that the reason why he has a visible horizon is that's curvature. Curvature of the water. I don't know what else to say. By apparent curvature, I don't know what else to say. Okay? AB, the oar itself in its inclined position, and BC, an inverted image of the portion of BE, right? So we don't have he doesn't give us a full inverted image of AB, okay? His inverted image only goes from BE to BC, right? We don't have another image. I guess he could have drawn it if he wanted to, but part of what I'm suggesting here is this, okay? It is my understanding that the section highlighted below, that is the blue watermark, the section highlighted below demonstrates the mirage to extend to the left and to the right of the barge. Okay, the mirage isn't just where the barge is. We have the barge, we've got an inverted image of the barge, and then we have space between the barge until we have the inverted image of the oar. Okay, so all we see is physical inversion of the oar and of the barge, but between the oar and the barge there's an inferior mirage, and to the left farther away from B, that's an inferior mirage, and then from the stern of the boat farther to the right, that's an inferior mirage. Okay, DD then, that is his apparent horizon, would be an apparent, I just repeated myself, sorry. DD then would be an apparent horizon. Okay, it's the limit of the mirage. That's why you see a limit of the mirage, and then you see water. That's what we have straight below in the image that I've provided. Okay? The water ends, not because the Earth is curving away, but because that's where the mirage ends. So everything above that apparent horizon is mirage. That boat is sitting on water. That boat is not beyond the curve and then brought up so that you can see it. Okay, so the actual horizon is right where it should be, underneath the boat and to the left and right of the physical barge. So then what this means too is that this is the abstraction. I've been trying to get people involved in trying to help me with doing a diagram of this, and that is that the space between the apparent horizon and the hull of this barge represents physical distance, but it's not vertical distance. It's along the y-axis, right? It shows distance, but we don't know how far this distance is unless we can measure it. So in this image here, again, we need to understand that if in our lighthouse image there were no mirage, you would see the water go all the way to the shoreline. Even though I would say you wouldn't be able to see what's on the shoreline, like if there were a dog there, you wouldn't be able to see it clearly because the angular resolution would be too minute or too acute. But you would see the physical land below the lighthouse. And we're going to see that when the lighthouse transitions in our video presentation. Okay, so if there were no mirage, you would see the very base of the lighthouse, you would see the land underneath the lighthouse, and then you would see the shoreline. So then underneath this image here, we see a diagram that shows a mirage brought into the observation, and that mirage blocks what we used to be able to see as physical land, and I've given you this little diagram right here. Okay, the problem with this diagram is that they do not mirror the sky between the land masses, and that's a gross oversight, absolutely gross oversight. Okay, and I think that I've pointed that out in my Why Can't Sean G videos as well, to argue for the mirage being lateral all the way across, even if you don't have anything but sky. Okay, so all right, now I don't even know how long I've been talking, so let's see what happens with this. 37 minutes. Well, there you go. That's a long discourse. Well, if you have any comments, please make them. If you want to send me an email so that it's easier to correspond, I would appreciate that. Until next time.